Hey everybody, welcome back. I am so happy that we get this time together. Some of you I know really well. We've been in lots of courses together. We spend a lot of time together and you know this work well. For you, this will be a deepening of some things you already know, and I hope that you learn some new things. For those of you who are just joining one of Safe Place's courses for the first time, I want to do a brief introduction. I'm Justin Hilton. I'm the founder of Safe Place. And Safe Place International is an organization that began with just basic protection of LGBT refugees and women and children wherever they were. We started with shelters, we started with food relief, medicine, legal help, and just generally creating safety to enable survival. As we really became close with all these communities that we were serving, we realized that there was an incredible wealth of leadership in the experience of being marginalized, in the experience of surviving such horrendous circumstances. So we started to develop a curriculum to develop that lived experience, all those things that had been survived, had been navigated. And now all of our courses are really about realizing that leadership. So there's a couple parts to realizing that leadership ability and to bringing full expression to that leadership ability. Part of it is we need to heal ourselves emotionally. We need to go back to the things that happened to us and really make friends and own our life experience and make a different choice and let our bodies know that we're no longer that helpless child, we're no longer that teenager that felt alone and isolated, that now we are actually an adult and we're ready to lead. And we have inside of us a destiny that's calling us forward. So the work that we do is always a volley between doing personal development work and developing those leadership skills. They work together, often simultaneously, but sometimes we're going back and forth. And our style of teaching, which is developed through the community, is what we call, I just want to remember it, collaborative learning and realization. So the collaborative part is that we're working together. I'm offering you some distinctions, some things to think about, some new perspectives. And the learning is you're learning about yourself. You have a chance to write down what this means to you. At Safe Place, we never want to teach you anything that's abstract. We want everything that we're learning and creating together to be instantly deployable in your life. We want it to have meaning for you right now. So we'll be looking at different ways of living, different ways of being in the world, different ways of framing our experience. And then we'll be asking you to write about what those mean for you. And we'll also be asking you to start practicing those new ways of being in the world, those new ways of interacting with the people around you, those new ways of moving through life and all the spaces that you inhabit. So the learning is really about how you work, and the realization is who you are and what you really want. Today we're going to talk about vulnerability. And vulnerability is a really charged word for so many of us. It's a big topic, and I'm excited to jump into it with you. So before we get started, I want to give you a minute to gather a pen and a paper or a digital device, because we're going to be doing some writing. And I also want to make sure that you're in a quiet, private place, as private as possible, as quiet as possible, because we're going to be doing some internal work. We're going to be going inside and really attending to our inner world, listening to what's happening. And for that, we need some sanctity. We need to not be interrupted. So this is probably not the video to watch in a coffee shop or in the back of a taxi. This is the video that you want to be engaging with in a private, quiet place where you can really have some time and some safety to be with yourself. I'll give you some time now to get those writing implements, and then we'll get started. So the title of this course is Vulnerability is a Superpower. And that may sound like a very conflictual statement, because we often think of vulnerability is the thing that gets us attacked. And many of us have spent our whole lives, or at least our adult lives, covering our vulnerability, making sure that we didn't get attacked again. And often we don't even let ourselves know what we're feeling inside. We don't let ourselves know the depth of our grief or our sadness or our aloneness. It feels even dangerous to acknowledge that to ourselves. So let's think about, how did we get here? How did we get to a place where what's inside of us, our feelings, our authentic experience, actually feels like a threat to us internally and a threat to us externally? Well, if you're like me, we got here by those early messages. And I want to just say a few of those early messages that I got. And I'm wondering if maybe you got some version of this as well. Don't cry. You don't have anything to cry about. Why are you pouting? Be quiet. Quit asking for things. We learned really early that our emotions, that our needs are unwanted, they're inconvenient, and that our caregivers actually pull the love away when we show emotions that make them feel uncomfortable or ask something from them. When we start school, that conditioning is deepened. No one likes a crybaby. It's not cool to be vulnerable. If you're vulnerable, someone's going to attack. It's much better to be on the offensive than to get attacked. So we want to start today's work with really going inside and finding where this retreat from our very essence, from all of our rich internal experience began. So a lot of times in the work that we do together here at Safe Place and at the Dream Academy, we go inside and spend some time in our own body, exploring our feelings and our heart and noticing our thoughts. We do this because we believe the source of leadership, the source of power, the source of expressing your destiny is your own body, is your own soul, is your own heart. There's no one outside of you, despite your history, that can tell you what your purpose on this earth is, how you should express your individual experience. All of your life experience up until this moment is almost like the perfect recipe for the destiny that you have, that you alone have, that your unique self has to express. So if you're willing, let's jump right in and go inside. So I'm gonna cast my eyes down, and if you're comfortable, I'd love you to close your eyes. It's gonna really help you sense your internal world and listen. So if you're willing, close your eyes. I'm gonna cast my eyes down and just want you to start with noticing your feet on the floor. Noticing your body, where you're sitting. And as you feel the weight of your body against wherever you're sitting, just letting your breath naturally deepen. So often we go all through our lives holding our breath, breathing just maybe at the depth of our lungs. That's a fright response, right? That's a response of someone in crisis. So when we breathe into our belly, which I'm asking you to do now, and I want you to put a hand on your belly so that you can feel your belly go in and out. We're letting our body know that it's safe, that this is a place where your body can relax and actually pay attention to what's happening in there. So as you have your hand on your belly, just acknowledging that you're okay, that you're safe, that you're here to listen. And as that breath deepens, just allowing yourself to soften a little bit more. And acknowledging that there are probably feelings right below the surface. Just as you deepen your breath and drop inside, you may notice fear or grief, or I feel a little heartbreak. And often we're afraid to even acknowledge these feelings. See what's there for you. What are the feelings that are just below the surface when you go inside? And as we breathe together and we invite ourselves to feel what's just below, let's try on some words that really invite these feelings out. Often we start off the sharing with our staff or our community members by saying, I'm not okay. I need help. I want support. I want someone to really listen and be there for me. I'm tired of feeling isolated and lonely. No matter how we look on the outside, no matter what face we present to the world, on some level, these statements are true for all of us. I'm going to say them again. I need help. I want support. I want someone to really listen and be there for me. I'm tired of feeling isolated and lonely. And I'll just add there, I'm exhausted. So many of us are exhausted from managing all of these feelings. Yes, just allowing space for those feelings and allowing space in your body. And as you begin to feel some of the feelings you've been living over, you've been pushing down, what can you notice? Is that love, tenderness and vulnerability, passion, excitement, also live in the same place as our fear, insecurity, sadness, grief, and loneliness. So if we're pushing down our fear and our grief and our sadness and our loneliness, we're also pushing down our passion, our excitement, our engagement, our aliveness. You can't push one feeling down. You push them all down. And when we push feelings down, we lose access to who we are. We lose access to our gifts and even our drive to connect with others to make a difference. And as you drop right into your own heart, allow yourself to go back to the earliest memories of having strong emotions. We can all remember as a kid having strong feelings. If we have kids, we know what it looks and feels like. Maybe you were sad, maybe you were angry. What messages did you get from your family and the people around you when you had those strong emotions? Was it okay to cry? Was it okay to be angry? Was it okay to have needs that felt really important to you? Can you remember a time when it was okay for you to cry when you were sad? Can you cry when you're sad now? Take some time and really feel and look. These bodies have so much to tell us. They're storing the records of our entire life. All of the emotions that we felt or that we pushed down are inside this heart, are inside this body. And noticing, could you ask for help or to be held when you were small? Was it okay to ask for help? Was it okay to say, I need you to hold me now? And fast forwarding to your life now, as an adult in your life, can you ask for help? Can you ask to be held? Really look and see. Let those memories from your childhood morph into your life today. Are you able to ask for help? Are you able to ask to be held now? And can you remember a time when being vulnerable felt dangerous or caused you to get hurt emotionally or physically? Can you remember a time when vulnerability felt dangerous or caused you to get hurt emotionally or physically? Those times are there for all of us. Sometimes they're so far down that we draw a blank. Just see what comes when I ask you that question. Can you remember a time when being vulnerable felt dangerous or caused you to get hurt emotionally or physically? What are you thinking of? Who's there? How are you feeling? Remembering to breathe and open to whatever you're seeing and experiencing. When we start to go inside, it can feel overwhelming, and it can also feel like a blank. We're so used to pushing it down that when we go down and start to feel, we go numb. It's overwhelming. Let yourself know right now, you're doing this meditation perfectly. Whatever you're receiving, whatever you're seeing, is absolutely perfect for you. So remembering that time when vulnerability felt dangerous and when you may have been hurt physically or emotionally, noticing in your life now, is it safe to be vulnerable? Can you show your vulnerability to people you trust? Is that something you can do? Is that something you have in your life? Just noticing what you're seeing, noticing what you're feeling, continuing to breathe, and knowing that you're safe. It's safe to actually explore what's inside. And as you breathe, just seeing if you can make a little more space for whatever's happening in there. Even if you're drawing a blank, just making a little more space, a little more permission to feel whatever is there. We've all got a lot of reasons not to trust. We've all got a lot of reasons not to show our vulnerability. Feeling the history, the lifelong history of your relationship with vulnerability, of your relationship with trusting other people with your vulnerability. And even for those of us who can feel our vulnerability, isn't there much more inside of us that wants to be felt and expressed? Isn't there much more under the surface for even those who have access? Taking a few more breaths now, and together, all of us, let's just make it a little more safe to feel everything inside of us. Let's do that together. We're just making it a little more safe to feel what's inside of us. And as you take a few more deep breaths now, staying with yourself, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes in a minute and find your pen and paper, and we're going to do some writing. But I want you to stay in your own body. I want you to stay in this place that you've cultivated just with a few minutes of going inside. I'm going to offer you a series of questions. Each one's going to have a slide. And I want you to trust whatever comes. Our body's wisdom comes at its own pace, in its own style. And you'll share exactly what there is to share today with you. And this sharing and everything we're doing today is you with you. You getting to feel you more deeply. You getting to know you more deeply. You creating more safety inside for you. You letting yourself know that you're no longer 8 or 14, that you're now an adult and you're ready to heal. You're ready to lead. You're ready to live fully. So with that, I'd like you to open your eyes and gently come back. And often when we go inside, for some of this is a new process. Our mind has a lot to say. What's going on? This isn't working. I'm not doing it right. I'm not getting anything. This is too much. So for now, just letting go of any judgments that you hear and knowing that you did it perfectly and that the work you're doing is not only work for you, but it's work for everyone that you will touch in your life, everyone that will benefit from your leadership, from your depth, from you transforming shame, anger, hurt, betrayal into power, compassion, empathy, and a commitment to inclusion, a commitment to everybody coming with you. So you're not only doing this work for yourself, you're doing this work for everyone you love and everyone that you will touch throughout your lifetime. And in that spirit, the first question I'd like you to write on, and go ahead and get your pen ready, is I'm sad about. And just write whatever comes. I'm sad about. Do that now. And again, I don't know if I've said this before, you'll have a timer. Write until the timer ends. And if you have more to say, just pause the video. Don't cut yourself off. Just pause the video and write as long as you want. I'm sad about. There's a slide to support you. We'll see you back here. And I'm going to offer you another slide, and this slide is very simple. I regret. So anything that comes after those two words, I regret, trust what comes, write till the end of the timer if you want to keep writing, continue until you're finished, and then start the video again. Do it now. Great work, and we're going to keep going. So many of us were taught that our anger was dangerous, or at least a pain in the ass for the people around us. Nobody wanted to hear our anger. So I'm going to ask you to finish this simple sentence. I'm angry about. I'm angry about. There's a slide to support you. Keep writing at least until the timer is finished. If you have more to write, pause the video and keep going until everything is out. I'm angry about. Do it now. All right, now one that is tender for all of us. I want you just to follow the lead of these words and see what comes. I'm heartbroken about. I'm heartbroken about. Trust what's inside. Keep writing at least until the timer finishes. Pause the video if you have more. I'm heartbroken about. Do it now. We have so much inside of us. And one of the primary emotions inside of us, inside of me, is fear. We're walking around with confident faces, feeling terrified most of the time. So we're just finishing the sentence. I'm fearful of. I'm fearful about. You have a slide to support you. You know what to do. Do it now. I'm fearful about. Great work uncovering and inviting all those emotions just below the surface. So we do something in our work in the Dream Academy and in Safe Place. We often start meetings, classes and staff meetings with the sentence, if you really knew me. And each person just finishes that sentence with whatever's happening inside. This is a doorway to authentic communication. So often when someone asks us how we are, we say fine, and that conversation is over. So I'd like you to finish the sentence, if you really knew me, and I'd like you to write what we would know if we really knew you. What would we know if we really knew you? There's a slide to support you. Do it now. So fantastic work, amazing work. And I invite you, as you finish this course, to look back at your responses. And I know that we're diving in the deep end. I really, really value your time and what we can do together. So here we go. We're going to keep going. I want to share with you some of my favorite quotes about vulnerability. And they're from a woman named Brené Brown. She's a researcher on vulnerability and does lots of talks and has written a lot of books. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. Courage begins with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. Vulnerability is the core of all emotions and feelings. To feel is to be vulnerable. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending the rest of our lives running from it. Just want those quotes to really land with us. Who we are and what we've experienced is really the birthplace of our destiny's expression. We've pushed down our past, but our past is absolutely essential. It's an essential ingredient in expressing our leadership, in expressing our power, in expressing our intimacy, in connecting with other people, in finding our people, in finding our circle of support, in stepping into the life that we've dreamed about, in being able to dream about a life beyond everything we've known before. Vulnerability is the key to all those things, right? That's why we're talking about it today. So I'd like you to think about a time when someone trusted you with their vulnerability and you were able to meet the moment and hold them. How did that feel? When someone said, "You're the person that I can trust. You're the person that I can pull back the curtain and be raw with, that I can show everything that I'm terrified about too." And you showed up and you were able to hold that space. How did it feel? I'm going to offer you a slide now when you were the person holding vulnerability. So great remembering how that felt to hold someone in their most raw and vulnerable place. Now I'd like you to think about one person that you would trust to hold you. I'd like you to put that person's first name down and why you would trust them with your vulnerability. There's a slide to support you. Go ahead and write their name down and why you would trust them with your vulnerability now. Great work, and we're packing a lot in today. I'm gonna ask more of you, so thank you for coming along with me. Now I'd like you to write the names of 5 people, and I realize that you don't have or may not have the same level of trust as you have with the one person you wrote down. But I'd like you to write down 5 people that are somewhere in your life, maybe someone you're just getting to know, maybe a friend, maybe a family member, maybe somebody at work, that you might be willing to share vulnerably with, that you might be willing to let that level of trust in. You've got a slide to support you. You know what to do. Write it down now. Those 5 people, you can just write their first names down. Go ahead. So take a look at those 6 names. One person that you profoundly trust, and 5 people that you might trust, that you could trust, that you'd be willing to think about trusting. So I'd like you to write down now all 6 of those names fresh and put a number from 1 to 5. 1 being, I absolutely trust them with my life. My inner world is exposed to them. I have no reservations about being completely raw, completely real with this person. And 5 being, I'm not sure, but I may be open to sharing some of my vulnerability with them. So 1 being absolute trust, and 5 being, I'm open, but I'm a little bit ambivalent. I'm not quite sure. So you're putting down those 6 names again. You can just put the first names. And then a number from 1 to 5 indicating how deep the trust level is with each person. Go ahead and do that now. We've got a slide to support you. So there's a reason that we start this work with vulnerability with people that we trust. It's to reprogram our insides. It's to give our inner world an experience that vulnerability creates strength, creates connection, creates a sense of relief in not having to hold everything we're holding inside. So the reason I ask you to list 6 people is, spoiler alert, at the end of this course, I'm going to ask you to go and share your vulnerability at whatever level you feel comfortable with at least 3 of those people. But I want to give you the fast forward, the big picture of this work. So myself and our staff and many of our graduates feel really comfortable being vulnerable in a lot of different settings. When we first meet someone, when we're trying to get funding, when we're in a conference. And why is that? It's because we did the work that you're doing today and felt that sense of vulnerability as courage, felt that sense of expressing vulnerability as a way to be more deeply rooted in who we are and what we're about. So vulnerability over time transforms from something we're running from and fearful of to being our best friend. So our leaders, whether they're in a classroom or they're making a presentation or they're making a pitch for funding, go to vulnerability first. Because what we realize is for anything to change in the world, there has to be a connection. All change happens through human connection. And human connection happens through someone getting real and vulnerable. So let's talk about how that actually works when we're leading a class or when we're making a presentation or when we're meeting someone for the first time. I might share what I'm personally going through, that I'm in the middle of a painful divorce and I'm worried about how it's affecting my children. And I'm also concerned about the conditions that our community members, my beloved friends, are in. And that level of vulnerability invites other people on the call to share what's really happening with them. It's contagious. So whether we're on a staff call or a community call or we're meeting people the first time, everyone starts to get real and everyone starts to feel deeply connected and everyone starts to work on a team that wouldn't, in a way that wouldn't have happened if we were just saying our names and our ages and where we're from and things that don't matter, you know, what we do in the world. So the purpose of sharing our vulnerability, and of course we're going to start with people we trust, but where we're going is that vulnerability gets us connected to ourselves and gets us connected to other people and allows doors to open, allows things to happen, allows us to have more intimacy, more closeness, more support. But the place where all that starts is as we communicate and share our vulnerability, we're more connected with ourselves. We know who we are. We know what we need. We're available for ourselves and for other people to connect with. So when we share our vulnerability, we're basically letting who's ever with us, who's ever hearing it, know that it's okay to not be okay. And generally, in most spaces, it's not okay to be not okay. So what I want to invite you to do is just to play with this, to experiment with that. Because on some level, you know, I might meet you and you think I was fine and I think you were fine. And we might even tell each other that everything was going great. But if we drop down, we could both finish the sentence, I'm not okay. And we could finish the sentence many times over with things that are weighing on our heart. So I'm going to give you a chance to finish that sentence. And I just want to check in and give an example of that. And I shared a little bit before. I'm not okay because I'm terrified about the violence in Gaza. I'm not okay because I'm terrified about the violence towards our people in Ghana and in Uganda. I'm not okay because I'm in the middle of this divorce and I know I'm making these decisions that my children will have to live with for decades, and I want to make the right decision. I'm not okay because I'm so dedicated to this work and I'm at the same time doing my own work. I'm not okay because I don't always put my self-care first. I'm not okay because I like to hold the people in my life that have lost loved ones in the last few weeks a lot more than I have been. I want to have more time to hold them. So we're going to give you a chance to do that as well. There's a lot that we're not okay about. I'm lonely, I'm exhausted, I'm grieving, I'm worried about someone I love, I'm worried about my financial situation. I'm not okay as a way to empty our balloons, to empty everything we're holding, so that we don't have to answer, I'm fine, and so that we can let people in and not carry these burdens ourselves. So I'd like you to say to yourself, I'm not okay, and then write down whatever comes. We have a slide to support you. Do it now. And how was that to empty your balloon? How was it to just get down all the ways that you're not okay? For many of us, it's a relief and we feel stronger and more connected. And for some of us, we feel a little overwhelmed and more emotional. And for most of us, it's some combination of those. So whatever you're feeling, totally the right thing. And just again, notice if you're breathing into your belly. And as you look at those ways that you're not okay, just letting yourself know that you're also totally okay. It takes an incredible amount of strength and solidity, resilience, to say, wow, this is what's happening with me. This is all of it. This is what I'm managing inside. We've had a short time together and we dove in the deep end. And I ask you to feel and see a lot of things in a very, very compressed time. And you have my deepest respect and gratitude for that. So now, I'd like you to just imagine that you're deploying some of these tools. And I'd like you to answer the question for yourself: how could vulnerability be a superpower in your life? How could you use vulnerability for more connection, for more aliveness, for being more in touch with who you are, for activating the destiny inside of you? I'm wishing I could jump across the screen and sit across from you and hear how you're going to use vulnerability as a superpower. Thank you again for the depth of work that you've done today. And I have some homework to offer if you're willing. Of course, homework is optional, but vulnerability doesn't just happen. It happens through repetition and practice. It becomes a way of life. It roots in our body. It reprograms us that vulnerability is about courage and strength rather than vulnerability to attack and danger. So if you're willing, as I said before, I'd love you to pick 3 of those 6 people and have a conversation with them. It could just be you doing If You Really Knew Me back and forth. But in some way, let your vulnerability be seen. In some way, show and share your vulnerability with 3 of those 6 people. So that's part of it. And the other is, for this next week, I'd love you to keep a very simple journal and just once a day do the exercise we just did. I'm not okay, and then list it out. This allows you to just empty that balloon every day and for you to know for yourself what you're managing, what's on your heart, what's on your mind, what are you carrying on your back. So 2 things, 3 of those 6 people in some way share your vulnerability, and you're welcome to just say, I'd love to do this new thing with you. It's called If You Really Knew Me, and they can do it too. Or you can share with them something about you, something that exposes you, something that brings you closer to them. And the second thing, I'm not okay journal. Enter every day, just finish that sentence, I'm not okay, at some certain time of the day. I look forward to seeing you in another course. Thanks again for the time together, and take good care of yourself. You've done deep work today. Drink water, nurture yourself, take a walk, get some sleep. Even though our time has been virtual, just trust that things are moving inside. And so be extra kind to yourself. See you soon.